Have you ever been ghosted by someone, or have you ghosted a person? That's today's topic. Tim and I are talking about ghosting. So welcome back to the podcast, everyone. We are talking about something that we have had conversations about quite a bit the past several weeks with each other. You've talked to me about it. The kids have been talking about it. So this is something we're going to unpack a little bit more today on the episode.
I like it.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite ghost?
Casper.
Casper.
If anybody remembers, I'm dating myself, but Casper was the cutest ghost. He was so cute, white, and all nice and sweet. And he was just a good little ghost. I loved him, and I loved the show. But that's not the ghosting words. We're not talking about those kinds of
I'm
ghosts.
going with Blueberry.
Oh, yeah, from the cereal.
How about that guy?
Yeah. He had a nice color, a blue raspberry look to him.
He did.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that's been coming up, and I did an episode on it probably back in 21, 4 years ago, but it's worth talking about again. I'm going to speak about it from a different angle. So I did a deep dive into ghosting because we have examples with our kids having been ghosted. You have examples of in the workplace, people ghosting you or ghosting their employer. I was ghosted by who I thought was a good friend a couple of years ago, a really painful experience. Couldn't believe it was happening to me at this time in my life. And I have been ghosted 2 other times in my life, and that was with friendships, and they're very painful. It really hurts. I think it's worth talking about again. Why is this happening, and why is it continuing to happen today as we're in 2025? It's not going away. And I think it's something that we do need to work on because it's hurtful to people.
Yeah. It's like almost you want to create a campaign. Why is this even a thing? In certain circumstances, it shouldn't even be happening at all.
Why is it a thing? We'll get into it. But I do think that I'll go back to with having children and adolescents. Part of me does think that it's a parenting piece, that there's a part of this is about how you parent your kids and teaching them. And this is just a piece of it. It's not all of it, but teaching them how to communicate and how to do hard things in communication, because communication is hard when we have to tell somebody we don't want to be with them or we don't like them, we don't want this job. But that's where ghosting comes from. We just don't communicate, and it leaves the other person a little bit in a lurch, right? I do think part of it might be from parenting, but you got to have good parenting to be taught this from a younger age. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. You're right. Like it's a means of escape. Ghosting is a means of potentially escaping from what could potentially be perceived as like something difficult.
Then I'll just tell what I went through a few years ago with somebody who became a good friend, and we were doing some work together for social media and for media. And we just grew close, I thought, in that process. This person reached out to me because she wanted to work with me, do a collaborative work on a piece of a business idea proposal and in a collaborative way. And we spent 6 months doing it. And in that 6 months of time, I grew to really know her. I was at her house twice a week. I really got to know her kids. She got to know me really well. We ate together. I helped plan her 40th birthday party. I got to be good friends with one of her friends. We shared a lot about our lives, our personal lives. It felt like a relationship. We laughed a lot. I just really enjoyed being with her and being around her. And I think she enjoyed being around me. And then when the business part of our relationship didn't work out, things changed at the little end. She started acting a little weird, taking complete ownership of this project that we were working on in a public setting with others. And I said something because I was at this meeting, and she just kind of went on and on and on about how I, and I thinking to myself, wait, what have we been doing for the past 6 months? And I said something. I said, wait a minute. I did say that. Wait a minute. We did this together. And I think, which I don't know because we never spoke about this, I think she was mad. I think maybe I embarrassed her, but I couldn't let that meeting continue without me sticking up for myself a little bit, saying, wait a minute, the optics on this are that this person, it was her idea and she did all the work. So I said something, but it seemed fine after that. The only thing I can think of, it seemed fine. We were together and talking for weeks after that. But then when the deal fell through, it was just over between us. And it was over in that she ghosted me. I thought, okay, we talked about it. It's not going to work. They've chosen to go with someone else, or there's not a need in the market right now for what you're proposing. Okay, maybe we'll come up with something else in the future. but we have our friendship. And I was sending her funny memes and continuing our texting that we would do. When are we getting together? And it just went radio silent. And I didn't think much of it. I thought, well, maybe she's busy. There's stuff going on. But 3 days, 4 days, a week later of not texting me back, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm being ghosted. I can't believe this. I'm being ghosted. I'm like 50 years old and I'm being ghosted. She wants nothing to do with me. And I was hurt. You remember me talking to you about it,
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah. It's shocking.
You were surprised.
It was like
you got to know her.
It went from 0 to 60 and then from 60 back to 0 almost as quickly.
6-7 months later,
Yeah.
and almost in a week's time. I was hurt. You were surprised by it. I won't say how you felt, but you probably felt something because you saw me in pain. And I just couldn't figure it out. And I was telling one of my sisters about it. And she said to me, which was a hard truth and one that I didn't want to hear, but she said, Anna, you didn't have a friendship. You had a transaction. That whole time she looked at you as a means to an end. You are part of a transaction. And you looked at it as a friendship. The business didn't work out, but hey, we're still friends and we'll remain friends. And my sister said that's not at all how she thought of it. It was illuminating. I'm like, oh, it's a transaction. It helped in a way, but it didn't mean it didn't hurt.
Yeah. So what if that business deal had gone the opposite way?
Oh, it would continue. It would, the friendship, air quote, friendship would have continued.
But for how long? Would this
Right.
have been inevitable, like at some point anyway? Like, I don't know.
Yes, I do believe that.
Yeah.
I do believe that. Yes, I think that it was going to happen. I just didn't see the writing on the wall. But once I sat and I thought about the stories I'd heard about this person's history with friendships, same-sex friendships, and struggling with female friendships, I always think that's never going to happen to me. The other time this happened was my childhood best friend ghosted me when I was 25 years old, pregnant with my first child, just completely ghosted me. We're in different times in our lives. I've talked about it on here. I was married with a baby on the way. She was in a different time in her life. She was struggling in different areas. We had some major disagreements. I was upset with some of the things that choices she was making in her life. And I told her that, loved her unconditionally. She was like a sister to me, truly like the 9th child in my family with my parents. My mom had her picture on her bedside table. Not the rest of us 8 kids, but her. There's a picture of her.
Right.
She was that 9th child and she was loved by my parents and my siblings, like all my siblings, not just me and Maria, who's a year younger than me. It was all of us. My brothers all knew her. Everybody knew her and loved her. And she ghosted me at the baby shower. I went home, flew home to DC for my baby shower. And she, I think, just called my sister who was hosting it and said, I can't come. My dad was upset. Like everybody was upset. Like, what's up with her? So that took me years to get over. A total ghosting. I saw it happen when we were in college. We went to separate schools, but I would hear this person talk about people that she was on the end with and loved and just kind of like love bombing. Looking back now, that was what it was. It was like being love bombed by girlfriends and her love bombing friendships. And she just spoke so highly of them. And then I talked to her when I got home at Thanksgiving or Christmas and she would hate that person. Oh, she's such a bitch. She did this. I'm like, whoa, okay. Wow, what happened? Because you were just loving on them and they were loving you and you're having the best times at school and now you hate them. And I heard that more than once, but I never thought it would be me because we'd been best friends since we were 11 and she was a sister to me, but she ghosted me. And I could not believe that we wouldn't be able to work it out. That yes, we had some disagreements. Yes, we were in a rough patch as a friendship, but I felt like friendships stay. You work through the tough stuff, but that wasn't how she was. So that was painful. I had a newborn baby and I was grieving the loss of a friendship of my best friend because I thought she'd be there in those days and she wasn't. Right. Hard stuff.
And it sounds like it was a pattern for her as well, right?
I didn't know it though.
But you didn't know it.
Because you go into denial. For the receiver of the ghosting for long-term relationships, there's a sense of denial. I saw it. I observed it. I listened to the stories, but that's not me. That's never going to happen to me. I'm her sister. I'm her best friend. BFF, best friends forever.
Yeah.
She won't do that to me. Later, as years went by, I was able to look back and say, well, why wouldn't it happen to you, Anna? Because there was a pattern there. It wasn't me. It had nothing to do with me. I get that. I was able to understand that in my own therapeutic work. It was about that person. It doesn't mean it hurts any less, though.
Yeah. We just get into the topic of ghosting. Globally, is that a pattern where it's something that somebody does again and again?
I think it is.
Like, is that the root
Now,
of
I don't
it?
have research on the global statistics in other countries around ghosting. I just have statistics that have done here in the United States or North America. So I don't have global statistics, but I would tend to believe that probably it's part of the human condition. So let's get into it.
But what is that? And why is it a certain type of person that does that? Because
I will tell you what I've come up with, and you, Tim, and all of you who are listening and watching, you can think for yourselves if this and how this makes sense for all of you. Okay. Before we get started, I want to encourage you to reach out to me. If you're looking for coaching, life coaching, come talk to me. Email me hello@AnnaMarcolene. I would be happy to get on a call with you and see if I would be a good fit for you for coaching. Okay. And if you're here in the state of Illinois and you're looking for psychotherapy, I have a couple of slots open for that right now as well. So reach out to me. Okay. And it's me who responds to you. It's not my assistant. It's me, the real deal. I say that because sometimes a lot of times when I reach out to big name people, you're not getting them, you're getting their team.
You're getting their person.
You're getting the person on their sales and marketing team.
Right.
You're not getting, and that's not what's happening here. You're getting me. Okay. All right. So what are some of the reasons? Here's some psychological factors. So for many people, there's just this fear of confrontation. A common driver of ghosting is just plain conflict avoidance. Many people they dread the uncomfortable breakup. There's breakup conversations. So they would rather just vanish than face the person or the conversation. There's one survey that I looked at that showed that 50% of ghosters, people who ghost, said their top reason for doing a disappearing act was to avoid confrontation or avoid a difficult discussion. I think that's huge. So by not having to say no directly to the person, the ghoster escapes guilt or awkwardness, essentially choosing personal comfort over honesty. But remember, I'm saying that right now. They're avoiding guilt or awkwardness. And what we have found is that that's not true. They don't actually fully avoid the guilt. And I'll get back to that. That's one reason, all right? Just the fear of confrontation. Next is emotional overwhelm. So ghosting can also be a reaction to emotionally feeling overloaded or not knowing how to handle someone else's feelings. So instead of dealing with emotional discomfort, their own emotional discomfort or what's coming up in the other person that they're seeing, the ghoster just opts for silence. This air quote easy out, it may feel like relief in the moment, but it sidesteps learning healthy communication patterns. So in fact, 86% of people who ghosted reported feeling relief afterwards, like, oh, I'm done. I just blew them off, didn't answer several of those texts. And showing how dropping contact can temporarily ease the ghoster's anxiety. Right now, today, I'm supposed to meet with somebody for coffee. I don't want to see them. I'm going to ghost them. They're sending me 3 texts like, where are you? I'm here. I'm on my way. And you feel, I feel uncomfortable. But like Sunday night or by Monday, you're like, I'm good. I'm good. And they stopped texting me and they've gotten the message that I've sent and they'll leave me alone and I can just move on.
Yeah. That just seems so self-centered because for the ghoster, it's instantly over. It's like
it's instant gratification.
It's like a light switch for that person and they flipped it. And the other person's like dealing with it. That could go on for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Hold on a second. When you did your research, when did this term come out? I don't remember hearing it way back in the day.
Yeah, because we did it. I was thinking about it. I'm like, when did I ghost? When I was in my teens and 20s and 30s. Well, I ghosted like not showing up to a doctor's appointment. That's ghosting. Not going to my dental appointment. That's ghosting. Wow. I remember. Yeah, well, we did it. Well, there are no-shows or no-show appointments.
Yeah.
You ghosted someone. I haven't ghosted therapists. I don't do that.
So there's different levels of ghosting, obviously.
Yeah, I don't ghost my therapist. If I do a no-show or I can't come at the last minute, I still pay. Yeah. Because I'm a therapist and I know it kind of hurts. It matters to people. You can't do that. But that's just me. I was just talking about it recently with the friend of mine, another coach. I was sharing with him. My guilt was 30 years or more. It was in college. I was in college and one of my good friends from high school was in town. It was my senior year. It was April. It was like a few weeks before graduation. And I was so freaking busy with the end of school stuff. Lots of parties, lots of stuff, a lot of things going on. And I think he called and left a message on my answering machine in my house that he was...
Answer machine?
Yeah, he left a message on my answering machine, my housemates. And my girlfriend's like, Anna, so-and-so called. Like, Anna, so-and-so called again. You should call back. I'm like, so-and-so called. I'm like, I think I actually did talk to him. He told me when he'd be in and I'd meet him. It was in Dayton, Ohio. I went to University of Dayton. He came to Dayton. He was at UD and called me and I totally blew him off. And I knew he was there. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to see him because I didn't feel like being his party person for the weekend because I had all these things I was going to. I don't know. I just didn't want to entertain him or take him to all the parties I was going to. I was such a brat. And I totally ghosted him.
Yeah.
It was so rude. He came with his friends and I ghosted him. And that was it. And I felt bad at the time, but I went la, 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 la. I went into denial. I just acted like, I don't know. It's amazing what we do to ourselves. I'll tell you offline who it was because I don't know. I don't want to say his name. I felt so bad about it.
No, don't do it.
But
we don't kiss and tell on the show.
Yes, we do. But I'm not going to say that. Yes,
Yes,
we do. And we're going to
yes,
in the
we do.
future too, because I have lots of plans for us
Okay.
being even more vulnerable and authentic.
Okay.
But I'm not going to say his name. But anybody who knows from high school, my good girlfriends, they know who I'm talking about. And I got home, it was after graduation, went on like a spring break. He was in Florida for a few weeks, got home. It was like the end of May, early June. And that best friend who ghosted me, the one later in our 20s, she said to me, it's that kind of interesting. She said, so-and-so's really mad at you. And she's like, you just totally blew him off. I'm like, yeah, I did. And I felt so bad about it. And I was just thinking about it recently, like, Anna, what was your problem? Why'd you do that? We stayed friends. I actually just saw him a few years ago when I was home for the holidays and we have a relationship, but I know he was really hurt by that. He was never quite the same towards me because I was a wimp. I was 22 years old, 23. I should have said, mea culpa. I'm sorry I did that.
Yeah.
Will you ever forgive me? Because that was completely rude and selfish. And I was overwhelmed, but really what I did was not right. And I should have said something and I didn't.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. So hold on.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the question. So you're talking about a story that happened in like 89, 90.
91.
Okay. So like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
The term ghosting was not there in 89, 90, 91. Because,
I
don't think so. I think that it was happening, yes, but I don't think there was a desire or a need or a want to like phrase it.
Yeah, I think it came around in the aughts, the 2010s. That's when I started to hear about it. No, I heard of ghosting from my clients. And at that time in the 2010s, 11s, 12s, I learned it from my clients. They were talking about, I got ghosted. He's ghosting me. She's ghosting me. That's where I learned. I'm like, what do you mean? What is that?
Yeah. Okay.
So in the 90s and the early 2000s, my adolescent and my young adults weren't using that term. But I do specifically remember 2010, 11, learning about this new term that they had coined that phrase.
I'm just wondering is there something to do with time? Because now there's the term and it's out there and people do use it all the time. And it happens quite a bit. And we're able to package it and put it into the ghosting box and call it that. Is there something to that? Is it because we have a term for it now?
I think we'll get into it because it's becoming more acceptable.
Yeah.
But it's not. Like it isn't, but it is.
There's the dilemma right there.
Okay, so what are some other reasons why people ghost? See, there's psychological reasons. And the next one is your attachment style and your level of insecurity. So psychologists have noted that individual attachment styles can predispose somebody to ghosting another person. People with an avoidant attachment style, they tend to withdraw when a relationship gets too close. Like, oh, I don't know about this. So they'll use ghosting as a way to preserve distance and their own emotional safety from that person that they're a little afraid they might be getting close to. On the flip side, those with anxious attachment, these people have a high fear of rejection. They might ghost preemptively, like, I'm going to end this first before you can hurt me. So I'm going to break up with you or end this relationship with you before you're going to do it to me. And if I can do it, then I will not feel hurt. So I don't want to feel these feelings, so I'm going to do it. Especially if they sense the other person might pull away from them. You're not doing it first. I will do it first. So in other words, past experiences and personalities make some individuals more likely to cut ties. Suddenly, it's self-protective measure. It's a form of self-preservation.
And I mean, that by itself is not bad. But I think the way
I think you need to understand your attachment style. It's not bad. It's hurtful.
But it's the way you do it.
Yeah.
You could do it in a good way.
Well, that's what we're going to get into.
Yeah. Right. But you choose to do it in a way that creates so much mystery. That's the part we're having some troubles with, right?
And the last one I want to talk about is when we rationalize our disappearing act. To reconcile ghosting, because most of us have a conscience, to reconcile the fact that we ghost with our own self-image, the self-image being like I might say to myself is, I'm not a bad person. Ghosters justify their silence. So they will tell themselves not responding is kinder and easier. For example, thinking no explanation is less painful than a direct rejection. I'm not going to give them an explanation. I'm just going to stay silent And I'm actually being kinder and nicer to them, because if I have to say something, it's going to feel like a direct rejection. That's going to hurt them. So this self-justification that they're doing reduces the guilt of hurting someone else. It's a form of cognitive dissonance reduction. I could do a whole episode, I'm not going to, but a whole episode on what this is all about. And that's why I said, wait, I'm going to get into it. Cognitive dissonance reduction. So ghosters create excuses for themselves like, well, we only went on a few dates. I don't owe them anything. To feel better about leaving someone in the lurch. That's how you tell that to yourself. So these mental tricks make it easier to ghost without feeling like I'm the villain, even though their behavior or my behavior, your behavior, if we ghost him, it's hurtful to other people. Okay. So cognitive dissonance is a major thing here. And it happens in almost every situation, unless you truly are like a sociopath or you have some sort of character disorder. There's a little bit inside each of us when we ghost that feels, I feel a little guilty. I feel a little guilty.
So you're saying we're aware of it in the moment?
We're aware we're doing it. We're aware we're doing it. And that's where guilt comes in. So there's guilt and there's shame. So let's go back to the basics of guilt and shame. Guilt is more surface level. Shame lives in the darkness. Shame is deep, deep. Guilt is I did a bad thing. Shame is I am a bad person. Okay, so that's really important to remember. Guilt is I did a bad thing. Shame's I am a bad person. In this conversation today, ghosting, we're not talking about shame. This is not about you being a bad person. We're talking about guilt. And the cognitive dissonance comes up because people have guilt around ghosting other people. This is where guilt is not a bad thing. Guilt is our conscience tapping us on the shoulder going, hey, listen, probably not cool what you just did. You might not want to do that. That's guilt. Guilt is when I said something completely out of line, didn't stay in my lane. I said something to someone that was mean, and I driving home, I'm like, I feel guilty. I feel so guilty. Well, yeah, I shouldn't have said that to that person. I said something that's kind of hurtful. That's guilt. And so guilt is my way of knowing and our way of knowing in our psychology that we need to make a repair. You need to make a repair for that. Yeah. That's the cognitive dissonance in ghosting. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So then why not learn from it?
That's what we're going to talk about.
Why the pattern?
We need to learn from it.
Why not change?
Well, because we're not getting coached up around it. We let it go underground inside ourselves. We don't deal with it. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to let it percolate to the surface and understand why we're doing that. And we're not getting therapy and or coaching around it and making changes. These are action steps. These are making changes in our lives. Yeah. It's hard work.
Yeah.
That's why, because I think it's really hard.
And so the guilt, it's not strong enough. That feeling's not strong enough to make you act on it.
We make it go away.
Yes.
Yeah, we can make it go away. Right. Okay. Daylight savings takes effect on March 9th, and it's the perfect time for you to optimize your morning routine now that more sunlight is greeting you in the morning. Enter AG1. Listen, unlike other supplements that come and go, AG1 is a habit that actually sticks because you can feel the difference. There are days when I don't perfectly get in all my fruits and vegetables, but AG1 keeps me going with energy. It's helping with my skin, and it's helping me get that great sleep that you all know I preach about all the time. And unlike other supplements that make big claims without the research, AG1 is formulated based on the latest science in nutrition and wellness. So when it comes to my health and hopefully to yours, I want something that I and all of you can trust. And that's why I choose AG1. With science-backed ingredients and real benefits, I can feel AG1 makes it easy to support overall wellness every day. And that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for so many years. And AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3 and K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/Anna to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/Anna to start your new year on a healthier note. So let's get into other reasons why ghosting is so prevalent today. So there has been a shift in communication norms. These are the social and cultural influences. There are changing norms today and relationship attitudes. So I will not be able to get into all this because I could seriously do like more than a TED Talk on this because there's a lot here.
This is a series, it sounds like.
Yeah. And we're not going to do a series on it.
Yeah.
Their social norms today around communication have totally evolved in the past 10, 20 years. In the past, any relationship or friendship usually involved a direct conversation, an in-person conversation, or at least a phone call. And completely vanishing from someone's life was really kind of uncommon, right? Because we had shared social circles. The shared social circles created accountability. People would know about it. You had to go and see them. Next time you went for happy hour, or you all went out to play darts. Like, hey, what's up? What happened with that? You had some sense of accountability and it reminded you of your guilt. These are studies that they've done on this. Today, we have a much more disconnected social network. It means you can drop out of someone's life with much fewer social consequences. You're not seeing people as much. So people aren't going to say, hey, Joe, what's with you and Larry? You don't have to answer that anymore, right?
Yeah.
So you mutual friends today, they may never know about this. And the ghoster's reputation doesn't necessarily suffer in the community as it might have decades ago. Interesting. I mean, I didn't think about it. I didn't dial down until I started to look into this. And I'm like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense. There's a reduced social accountability today versus 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Agree?
1,000%. There's just a reduced skill in being able to, not all the time, but much of the time, because I've seen it happen firsthand at work and in circles that I am in and out of just being able to hold a conversation.
Well, you've had people not show up. You've talked about people not showing up for interviews. You're waiting for them to come in for a job interview and they just don't come.
Yeah. Don't return a phone call. Don't return an email, like literally nothing. And you're like, what is happening?
That has been going on for a while, though.
But right now, it's actually a big thing. It's a big thing where people just don't respond. Now, on both sides of the fence, an employer, same thing. An employer will just not respond. They will not give you any type of, yes, you are moving to the next round, or no, you're out completely, or hey, we're processing, we'll get back to you.
And people are left hanging.
Yes.
I mean, I know you have to wait a couple of weeks sometimes, but employers not getting back to these candidates, oh, that's not cool.
And with no
just
intentions.
Let them know so they can move on.
Yeah, because sometimes there's no intention of getting back at all.
Oh, there's no intention of getting back.
No, it's not going to happen. What sense does that make?
And you've had people who you've hired who went through all the orientation, filled out all the paperwork and just didn't show up on day one.
I've not had that happen to me, but I've heard of it. Certainly.
No.
I've heard of it. We certainly have had people that we've interviewed that we thought, okay, we're going to move this person through, or at least give them another interview.
You've never actually, I thought you did. You've never actually had somebody not show up the first day of work after you hired them.
No, not the first day of work. I've heard of that. That has happened. Yeah. I've heard of that.
Because we've had conversations around
that. But we have had people that have just left and that was it. And we never heard from them again. They're an employee.
So they terminated themselves.
They have decided to terminate themselves and not let anybody know.
Okay. So I know we've talked about this because you have been frustrated over the years by
silliness.
This. Because it totally throws a wrench in your all's ability to work.
Yeah.
Someone's got to cover for somebody. All right. So there's also an increased acceptance of ghosting. What might have been seen that we're talking about as rude or shocking is now often shrugged off as, it's just how things are. Just how things are. Many people, especially younger adults, view ghosting as a relatively normal response to uncomfortable situations, which is so telling, right? So the millennials and the Gen Zers, it's normal. I'm uncomfortable and this is just a normal response. So surveys show that nearly 2/3 of people admit to ghosting someone themselves, and 75% of people believe ghosting is acceptable in certain situations. There was one poll that said almost 60% of people ghosting, they said it's the new normal in dating. It's the new normal. We all do it. Let's just all get used to it. In short, the practice has been culturally normalized to a surprising extent. Notably, the term ghosting is now mainstream as we're talking about it. It even earned a spot. It's in the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Good God. So who has put the stamp on it, though? Who is the one that said, you know what? I'm going to prove that ghosting's good?
I don't think we're saying it's good.
Who?
I don't know.
It's crazy town.
So here's a Gen X talking now. Crazy town.
It's crazy
ghosting.
Town.
All right. So there's also this reciprocal ghosting cycle. So this normalization creates a vicious cycle. So people who have been ghosted, then they start ghosting others and they see it as typical. Hey, I got ghosted, so I'm going to ghost you. It's like a reaction formation, which is a defense mechanism in psychology. It was done to me. It hurt. Well, I'm going to do it to you. It doesn't make it right And it happens all the time. High ghosting rates feed into themselves. As one psychologist that I was reading about ghosting, he observed, once someone experiences the pain of being ghosted, they may adopt the same behavior as a defense mechanism, which I just said, which is called reaction formation, thinking it's better to disengage first than risk emotional harm. So ghost others before they ghost me mentality perpetuates a trend and further entrenches ghosting and social behavior. So it's almost like a contagion effect, like a social contagion.
Yeah.
We're all getting used to it. It hurts a little bit, but suck it up because you're going to get ghosted again. No, I'm going to ghost you. There's something to that. And there are generational and cultural shifts. So like we just said, the younger generations appear more prone to ghosting, seeking a cultural change in relationship expectations today. They're just different. For example, 70% of Gen Z respondents in a survey admitted to ghosting someone, 77% versus 61% of millennials. That's a big difference. 70% of Gen Zers have ghosted someone, 61% of millennials have ghosted someone. And I would probably say Gen X is much less. You just didn't do that. You wrote thank you notes. All millennials and Gen Zers, they don't write thank you notes. You don't even know if they got your gift because they don't acknowledge it. They kind of ghosted you with the etiquette of saying thank you for a gift. That's completely gone by the wayside. At the most you might get is a text. And that's a criticism. I think that has to change. The biggest thing for me is even a text is better than nothing. I just don't know if you got my wedding gift I ordered for you or your baby shower gift, And I don't hear my friends, the other Gen X parents complaining about it. My family does because etiquette was huge in my family with my mother taught all 8 of us kids.
Yeah.
That you write thank you notes, you say thank you. That was just the way I was raised. Etiquette was a really big deal, but it's not a thing today. So just ghost. No one cares.
And so maybe that's shame on us. Maybe we didn't make.
I make our kids.
Well,
I always have a packet of thank you
right.
notes. And I'm not better than anybody. I'm not saying I'm better.
No.
That's just something I really value.
But I'm just saying us as our generation. Maybe our generation should have done a better job at passing along certain things. Stressing certain things a little bit more sternly, maybe just like, oh no, you have to do it this way. This is the best way to do it for you. Maybe we should have been better.
Well, my mom taught us that this is how we do it in our family. And I did what my mom taught me. I taught the 5 kids, this is what we do in our family. You write thank you notes.
Yeah.
You can sit down and you can take 30 minutes and write those thank you notes. We taught them at a very young age. Thank you for the Legos. Love, grafted.
I could see this thing coming around the corner though. Like it could come back around. The mindset I'm talking about.
It might.
Like at some point this might be deemed as like, oh, that's terrible. We need to fix that. The new generation.
Maybe.
Let's have a rework of this.
Yeah.
And going forward, we're not going to have it be just like this anymore because of all of these reasons.
So Gen Zs are 77%, 61% of millennials have been ghosted. Gen Z also reported a higher rate of being ghosted by friends and dates. And that's painful. So some experts argue that an overall rise in incivility or less emphasis on formal politeness in society may play a role. There you go. There we are with the thank you notes. So in this fast-paced culture, avoiding drama or awkward talks, even though they're uncomfortable and at the cost of kindness, is sometimes seen as acceptable. Ghosting has even been described as part of a broader air quote, culture of disrespect, where treating people as disposable is increasingly common. And that's a sad statement about our society today. If that's how we are. And it is how we are. So technology has certainly helps people lean into ghosting each other with the social media apps, the dating apps, even friendship apps. I mean, people are viewed as replaceable. You are replaceable. There's this whole grass is greener on the other side mentality. So you're on the dating apps, you're swiping right, you're swiping left, and you're looking for the next best thing to come along. And that person that you set up coffee with for a mini date, well, look, there's this person and they can meet the same time on this Saturday morning. So I'm going to ghost that person because I really want to meet that person. This is what happens. One of our kids went through this more than a couple times. It really got to her. I mean, she was dressed up on a Sunday, worked out, showered, looking cute, texting, where are we meeting, knew the details of this coffee shop. She was in the elevator going down her condo and the person didn't answer her. She's like, hey, just confirming we're meeting. Didn't answer her. 2 texts. Then she went into the app and he blocked her and then got rid of her on the app. She called crying.
Yeah.
It's not the first time it had happened.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's awful. Our heart went out to her because you start to think, what's wrong with me? Here's this highly successful, intelligent woman who is just such a catch. And I always say to her, it's not you. I know it's hard to hear this right now, but you got to know that this is not about you. This is about them.
Yeah.
But when you're in your feels and you're feeling so hurt, it's hard to say, yeah, it's not about me. It's about them. She could do it later, but that's not the first time that it happened. And our other daughter got really mad and texted the guy, got his number and texted him and said, how dare you do that to her?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we felt so protective of her because she was in so much pain. We want to protect her and don't do that. It's not cool.
Yeah.
People really get hurt.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
this guy went to her church.
Well, and the other side of it, those people don't even think about that. They don't even consider the feelings of the other person.
Well, I think you feel a little guilty in the moment. And I think there's that cognitive dissonance.
I don't think some people do.
Yeah, maybe not.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think part of it too, I think we're like kind of our own worst enemies. We have in general, not every time, but in general, we have given ourselves rules in how we are or what we can say, but how we are able to talk to certain people in certain situations about certain things. Like you got, oh, no, you can't bring that up. You can't talk that way. I'm thinking like in the world of business.
Yeah.
But to the point where it's like, you can't even on certain occasions with certain things, even have a hard conversation with somebody because you're not allowed to say this, or this. And it's like, what? Sometimes a person needs to hear that. Just needs to hear the hard stuff.
You can say it. I mean, I always say this. I've always said this to my clients. There's not much we can't say to each other. It's the delivery. It's our delivery. It's how we say it. Watch your delivery. Watch the tone in your voice. Watch the pitch. Watch the words you're choosing, your sentence. But there's not much we can't say to each other. It's just how we're saying it.
Yes and no. I mean, there are certain things you're not supposed to be talking about. I'm thinking in the workplace. Like you're not supposed to bring up certain things. Yeah. So it makes it more challenging when you're trying to have a difficult conversation, a necessary difficult conversation with somebody. And there's certain things you can't even go there with. Yeah. And that if you were able to, that person would hear it much differently. It would be very hard for them.
You would never forget it was said to you.
Right.
That's for sure.
But I think maybe being able to do that nowadays, now instead of even having a difficult conversation, sometimes it's just a quick text and you put your phone down and then did it happen? Well, I don't know. I'm not even looking at my phone. It's like you're over it that fast,
right?
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah. Well, okay. So that's the dehumanization of social media. We're moving along here, so we're not going to be able to get into details of all this, but I found it to be fascinating. Social media dehumanizes other people. To us, this is just a profile. This is not really a person. I don't feel the normal empathy for them that I would feel for somebody that I met organically in the workplace or while climbing or working out, right? It's how we rationalize and what we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
There's an empathy gap that's going on right now. When we have this empathy gap for other people, it makes ghosting easier. It just doesn't feel as cruel to drop communication when the other person is just a bubble in your chat list. Right? Digital communication strips away the social cues as well. Like I just said, tone of voice, facial expressions that might otherwise humanize interactions and create hesitation before cutting someone off in our life. When we have no shared circles, social circles, there's no backlash. So there's no accountability. So many modern connections today have minimal overlap in social circles, especially those where they're formed online or in apps. Oh my gosh, in the workplace or the networking context, technology has simply made ghosting easier. So job applications that we'll talk about that real quickly. They're submitted through an impersonal online form. Networking messages come through email or LinkedIn. If either party drops communication, I know you're smiling.
That's so funny.
It's often done via silence behind a screen.
Yeah.
So as one career expert put it, the heavy use of automated systems in digital communication hiring has made the process cold and impersonal, contributing to a spike in ghosting behaviors from both employers and candidates.
Yeah. You could take that one step further.
Yep.
It drives me crazy when like the initial screen, like the first touch with somebody that's applying for a job is done electronically. It's done on Teams, done on Zoom. Really? You can get a feel for somebody from their electronic image on a screen?
Yep.
I don't know. I don't think you can.
I haven't thought about this until right now, but on LinkedIn, I do ghost a lot of people. I get a lot of messages, but LinkedIn has turned me off because it's got so spammy. LinkedIn has become a place for people to get into my messages or want to sell me something. They want to sell me a course. They want me to buy something from them. They want to fix my website. They want to fix my SEO. They want to be my podcast person. It's all spammy sales stuff. So I don't respond to them. And actually, that's the one time I think ghosting would be appropriate. I don't respond to them. I don't know you. You don't really know me. You want to sell me something. And LinkedIn's, for me personally, maybe not for others, has gotten really terrible in that way. So I'm not responding to that. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to move on. We're going to get into ways to change this. But if you all want me, I could do an episode alone on ghosting when it comes to dating and romantic relationships and ghosting in friendships. So I talked about 2 friendship situations in this episode about what I went through. But I can go into much more detail about this and how you get beyond it and how you cope and how you deal. Okay. So dating is number one where we see most ghosting, where it's very, very painful, romantic relationships and friendships. So let me know. We could do an entire episode on ghosting in the workplace and professional interactions. This is a really big topic. Okay. So we're going to get into how do we deal with this? How do we not ghost other people? How do we just treat them better?
How and why, right? Or maybe the why is a different podcast.
It's a big one. So what are some ways that we can not ghost other people? All right, let's talk about that. So here's the how-tos, everybody. So I want you to practice the 1-sentence exit rule, okay? 1-sentence exit. So everybody is going to have to head up, shoulders back, here's your confidence, and learn how to move into discomfort, okay? Get comfortable being uncomfortable, all right? Head up, shoulders back. The biggest reason why people ghost is because they're avoiding discomfort. They don't know what to say, so they say nothing. Instead, I want you to create this 1-sentence exit, okay, that you can use. So when it comes to dating, you're going to text this. Hey, I enjoyed getting to know you, but I don't see this going further. Wishing you the best, exclamation point. There, done. You didn't ghost them. 1 sentence. You didn't ghost them. You don't want to see them again. Wasn't a fit. Didn't feel like we're in alignment.
Yeah.
Done. Okay?
Okay.
In friendships, I value the time we spent together, but I feel like we're growing apart and I need to take a step back. That might be a harder one to send, and you can still send it. So rather than ghosting someone that you're in a friendship with, now you have to think about the level of friendship, but I would think this might be a newer person. I value the time we spent together, but I feel like we're growing apart and I need to step back. Or find something like that to say. And this is in a text, okay? Texting is better than ghosting. Do we prefer it to be a phone call or face-to-face? Yes, but I'll tell you 95 to 99% of people are never going to do that. At least sending that text is better than nothing. I would have appreciated if I'd received this text from that person a few years ago. I would be like, okay, I understand. It would help me get closure a lot sooner. All right. And
you know what's funny? You're offering this up, and like some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't even see myself typing that up.
yeah,
I can't even see myself not doing it face to face. So think of the difference.
because you've had a ton of practice, Tim.
Well, yeah, but
You've had a
it's all
lifetime of practice.
I know, but it's all perspective, right? But people our age still ghost. I mean, it's not
People
an
our
age
ghost.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you've had to work
it's just
on it.
interesting. It's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is practice.
Yeah.
And then maybe you will practice talking with someone face to face. The word confrontation is so scary for people. Confront in Latin means to turn and face.
Mhm.
That's all it means, everyone.
So true.
To turn and face. Confrontation, I've said this before on here. People think it's angry, it's in your face, it's yelling, it's hurtful. No. Confrontation is you and I looking at each other, making eye contact. I'm going to confront that. Hey, I value the time we spent together. I don't think this is a fit. And I just wanted to let you know that. I wish you all the best. I want all great things for you. I'm not available for this relationship anymore. And I say that all the time. I say I'm not available for this. I think it's a little bit of a softer land.
Yeah, totally.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when it comes to 1-sentence exit for the workplace or professional settings is I appreciate the opportunity, but I've just decided to move in a different direction. That's an easy one. You can text that. You can email that. I appreciate the opportunity, but I've decided to move in a different direction. This eliminates the excuse of, I don't know how to say it, making it easier for us to close these conversations with kindness and clarity rather than avoidance. Okay. So you do this, you're really growing yourself up. You're really maturing. This really strengthens your emotional intelligence, everyone. Okay. Your communication skills are going up. You're learning how to handle conflict and difficult conversations with grace instead of fear.
So true.
Really important.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2,
Yeah.
set boundaries instead of disappearing. So if you feel overwhelmed in a relationship, a friendship, a work situation, ghosting may seem like the simplest way out, like we've said this whole time. But instead of vanishing from someone, try setting boundaries with clear communication. So instead of ghosting a friend who's texting you too much, say, hey, I've been feeling really busy and I need to take a step back from texting so often. I hope you understand. That's a good one. I love that because some people really overtext.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice way. They'll get the message. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember, everybody, what they do with that is not your problem. Because I, knowing me, the people pleaser I've worked hard on not doing anymore, would go, but they're going to feel bad. I'm going to make them feel bad. They're going to feel sad. I'm going to hurt them. It's not my problem how they receive it. I'm responsible for what I say. So I'm responsible for the, hey, I've been feeling really busy lately. I need to step back from so much texting. I hope you understand. That's what I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for what they do with it.
Well, and also how they interpret that, right?
That's not our responsibility.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of ghosting somebody that you went on a date with, maybe you're unsure about them, you could text, hey, I'm not sure what I want right now, but I appreciate our time together. That's a really good one. And instead of ghosting a job recruiter, you can say, hey, I decided to pursue another opportunity, but I appreciate your time. That's it. Simple, easy peasy, done and dusted. By being direct about your needs, it makes ghosting unnecessary and it teaches you to assert yourself without avoidance. So this is a wonderful way for you to learn those assertiveness skills without avoiding someone. So here's the personal growth benefit. This helps you develop self-awareness and boundary setting skills, making you more confident in expressing what you need. I'm going fast through these, but these are some good ones. These are good nuggets. I kind of wish somebody had taught this to me years ago. Well, I've done a pretty good job, but I'm not great. I mean, I have blown people off. I mean, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And I think these are really, really wonderful ways to help through, especially because all this is pretty much texting.
Right.
You can do it.
And you know what? I mean, parents can take some ownership. Like you and I could take more ownership of this. Should it also be something that is part of the educational system at some point?
Well, this is
should they touch on it somehow?
I mean, I've said this in the beginning. I've said this. So dialectical behavioral therapy, I learned it 25 years ago. And I used to teach it when I worked in psych in the groups. And I loved the therapy. And the clients, the patients loved the therapy. And me and all the other therapists, we'd always say, why didn't they teach us in kindergarten? And part of this comes from that therapy of how to deal with it, getting emotionally dysregulated, how to relax, how to have interpersonal effectiveness, how to communicate well with other people, and how to learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So that leads us into the third one, and it's basically get comfortable with discomfort. And I've already talked about it, so we're not going to go into a lot of detail. But the only thing I would ask you to ask yourself is next time you feel the urge, you want to ghost somebody, ask yourself these 2 questions. Am I avoiding this because it's uncomfortable for me? Would I want someone to do this to me? 2 questions, okay? Write this down. Am I avoiding this because it's uncomfortable for me? And would I want someone to do this to me? Remind yourself that a little discomfort now is better than long-term guilt on unresolved tension later, okay? So by facing these hard conversations instead of avoiding them, you build resilience and emotional strength. So this is you building your emotional resilience and your emotional strength in your life. So if you're doing this, a high five to you and keep going. I know that this stuff is hard. I know it is. It's been hard for me, and you all can do it. The next one is I want you to recognize that ghosting hurts people. Even if you don't think it does, it hurts people. And I'm not saying this to make you feel really guilty, but if you feel some guilt, then maybe pay attention to that too. So it's easy to convince yourself that ghosting is, it's no big deal. Or that the other person, they'll figure it out. They're going to figure it out. I'm not responding to them. But research has shown that being ghosted triggers the same brain pathways as physical pain. This is really interesting. I didn't know this. Being ghosted triggers the same brain pathways as physical pain. It hurts, it confuses, and it creates self-doubt in that person. And that's exactly what happened to our daughter.
Right.
It hurt her, it confused her because they've been texting all week, and it created self-doubt in her as a person.
Right.
So instead of assuming it won't matter, remind yourself, ghosting creates unanswered questions in someone. They're going to say something like, did I do something wrong? Was it me? Ghosting lowers self-esteem and trust. It makes people really wary of future relationships. Now, this I've seen quite a bit in my office. And remember, you wouldn't like it if the roles were reversed on you. So don't do it to other people because you don't want it done to you. When you really start to acknowledge the impact of you ghosting, it becomes easier to choose honesty over silence. This builds empathy and integrity of yourself, integrity of your character, strengthening your relationships and your emotional intelligence. But the biggest takeaway from this is you're building your integrity as a person. And that you can take to the bank for the rest of your life. And you get to feel all the great, good stuff about yourself as a person because you know you have integrity because you've dealt with these issues head on.
Yeah.
Okay. And the way to start is by practicing. And finally, follow the golden rule. Don't we all know the golden rule of communication? Treat others the way you want to be treated. So remember the golden rule. Go write that down. If you don't want someone to suddenly disappear on you, don't do it to them. So before ghosting, ask yourself, if I was on the receiving end of this, what would I want to happen? And how would I feel if someone ignored me instead of giving me a direct answer? How would I feel? Take just 30 seconds to consider this shift in your mindset and motivate yourself to send that small message, email, text, instead of disappearing from that person, okay? This enhances your self-awareness and ethical decision-making, helping you act in alignment with your values.
I like it. Good advice.
I feel like I ran through this and we are at it almost an hour. It's so hard to do this in 30 minutes. I'm sorry, everyone. I hope that this was helpful. This is a really big topic and one that I wanted to give it its due time and give it its credit.
I think we could probably take maybe a few points of this down the road and drill down.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think there's value to that.
So if you all want me to talk about ghosting and niche down a little bit more about ghosting in friendships, if you want Tim and I to talk about ghosting in romantic relationships, the dating world, if you want me to talk about ghosting in the workplace, please email me. You all, hello@annamarcolene.com. Let me know and I will certainly put together an episode based on that, because those are 3 other topics that we could niche down and easily do 30 minutes on again.
Oh, good grief. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
All right, everyone. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, review with 5 stars the podcast. Share it with someone who you think that this would be helpful and insightful for them. And as always, have a good week. Mad love, everyone.